Alright, welcome back everybody. I want to work some of this Florida Chert on camera. I've got a couple pieces here. I think this is probably a better piece than this one, so let's start with it. This is the locally collected stuff I heat treated. I showed it in another video, but I've been making some better stuff out of it, so that just split in half, not sure why, but we'll keep going. It's not a big deal. This stuff is a little unpredictable, so I try not to get upset with it when it breaks in half randomly. But it does work pretty good. That'll make a nice little arrowhead. That's one real good way to thin a chunky piece like this out, if you can do it, is to run big flakes down the back. And we started off with something blocky, and now we're down to a pretty thin piece already. I mean, not like ready to, you know, do anything with, but keep thinning. But it's still a vast improvement in just a couple hits from where we were. Trying to zigzag this edge off without losing a bunch of width here. That would be an awesome little platform right there. There it goes. That was a beautiful little flake. I love that orange that's right underneath the cortex. It's just hard to, we'll try to abrade that. It's hard to keep it in the finished point. Extremely hard to keep it in the finished point. I have one in the house. I should have brought it out here and showed y'all, where like a circle just like maybe a sister piece to this, and it stayed in there. I didn't finish it out all the way yet, but it's a blank. I'm trying to make a set of matched Noonan style points out of this, just for me, just to have. I'll probably make a case dedicated to just this rock. We'll see. Now that I'm more comfortable with it, I'm been pushing it further and further. It seems to be doing okay with being pushed pretty thin. Still doing a little bit of cleanup work here, still trying to get everything situated exactly the way I want it, get the edges cleaned up and get it into something resembling a decent biface. It'll really run a flake though when you get everything set up right, which is all I've ever asked for in a piece of rock. I like that it's pretty, but I like the fact that I can work it even more. I'd like to keep as much of that color in there as possible, but it's not my first and foremost concern. It's pretty well isolated there now. Let's see if I can get a good direct hit on that. Yep. Got a little tiny step fracture right there, but no longer. I love that. I love when it does exactly what it's supposed to do. Little thin, wide, long flakes, man. I like that. Like I said, this is pretty good rock. As good as I've ever found. And what's crazy is I have been all over the state hunting for rock and other states, and besides going out west and getting obsidian, this is I wouldn't call getting obsidian necessarily me finding rock, because obsidian is pretty well known, like where it comes from. I think we're pushing getting ready to go to the indirect. I'm going to Tennessee in a couple weeks for a long weekend, and I'm hoping to maybe find some rock while I'm up there too. I just going for a vacation, a little short vacation, a little 3-day thing. It's not super far for me. I think it's about 6 to 8 hours from where I'm at. I used to travel a lot for work, so that seems short. That seems like a short distance. Alright, I'm going to switch to the indirect before we break this in half. Got some really hard to hit kind of spots that I've got kind of messed up from either taking too much of a flake or hitting it a little too hard or a little too wrong. So we'll just work our way through it, and this doesn't require much. I'm going to move to where y'all can see just a little bit better. I kind of want y'all dead center and not off to the side or anything. I'm trying to work on my filming for y'all. several people have left me some, call it constructive criticism about it. And I understand. Nobody wants to. The whole point is for me to be showing y'all what I'm doing. So I'd rather y'all say something and say, hey man, you know, this kind of sucks. Because I'm doing this as much for y'all as I am for me. Although I do make jokes about not caring about what other people have to say, but I do. I'm just kind of kidding most of the time. For the people who leave me feedback on my videos, I really appreciate that. Even if it's negative, it's okay. Sometimes I'm not soft, I can take it. But that has been, if I had to categorize complaints, that has been the number one is, hey, I can't see what you're doing. Which, fair enough. It's supposed to be so you can see. So maybe this will be a little bit better. I need to thin this tip out. It's really thick, and the rest of this is getting, it's approaching on thin. So I hate to do it to y'all, but I'm going to sharpen my pressure flaker on camera here. I've been doing a little bit more, kind of trying to refine things and work on some different content for y'all. Try to get some better video quality where you feel like you can kind of tell a little bit more about what's going on. This stuff pressure flakes pretty darn well, almost too well. I can tell you what, I worked hard for this rock, but I wish I had a 55-gallon drum full of it or a pickup truck, but I don't. I have a few hundred pounds, but it's not all this quality. Y'all see me work the pieces I'm more sure about on here, and then anything that's kind of questionable I'll probably do off camera, just because it's really unpredictable, which is unfortunately the bad thing about it. You'll look at one on the outside and it'll look really good, but all this is coming out of a river and has been in the river since time immemorial, probably. Who knows how long it's been in there. It ain't dug out of the ground or anything. It's tossed. A lot of it, you pick it up, smack it one time, and it turns to shrapnel in your hands. I've stopped bringing that home because it just seems like, yeah, I might get a piece the size of an arrowhead out of it, but it's not. It's really not worth it at the end of the day. Which is unfortunate. I wish I could, you know, use more of it, which is another thing. There's no point in taking stuff out of, you know, I don't really think this way too much, but it's kind of important. There's no point in taking something away from a natural place to take it home and then not use it. I like to use what you take, do something with it. It flakes so good. This isn't even a super hot heat treat. This is 450 ish. Just trying to examine where my abrading needs to be and where what I want to move to next. If I want to stick with pressure or if I want to switch back to the indirect. I'd kind of like to keep it about the size we have it now, and it's not crazy thin. It's pretty thin. We'll do a touch more pressure down here by the tip, which is probably a bad idea, but I said pressure, but I meant indirect. Just a couple areas down here I'd like to clean up. Have to be careful when I'm doing this to prevent overshots, not hit it very hard, because it's pretty easy to run one of these really skinny indirect flakes right across it. I'm not hitting it crazy hard here. I know it's probably hard for y'all to tell. I thought for sure that would come off of there. Let's give that a little touch up, a little more braiding right there. See if I can't peel that off of there. I'm gonna go right there at that platform and just try to peel that. Man, I could almost peel that off of there by hand, but I don't mind giving it a little tap right there so I can peel that off of there. Yep, it's gone. I'd like to do some addressing on this back too, but I have to be very careful. We're pretty thin. Gotta be careful on that back. If y'all have seen, well, y'all don't see them, but I broke a lot of points doing that. Maybe I should save all the ones I break while filming and do a montage for y'all. Here's a montage of every screw up I've had this week. It'll be a really long video. No, I don't break that much stuff, but I break a lot of stuff. I'd say 1 in 5. Possibly more. I'm gonna stop talking about it now. Is that thin enough to suit y'all? I think one more pass of pressure and clean that back up a little bit. I took a few thinning flakes off the back. I did. I couldn't stand it. It did make it though, so I'm gonna take some real big pressure off of it though here in just a second, which is gonna put quite a bit of stress on stuff. You can put quite a bit of stress on stuff, pressure flaking. I'm gonna do it between my legs, which unfortunately isn't going to give y'all as great of a view, but it's going to allow me to put maximum pressure. I don't normally use the issue stick for its intended technique just because I don't feel like I have to, but on this one I feel like I have to. Now I'll go back to doing it like I was. Yeah, like I said, most of the time I don't do that unless I really feel the need to. If I did that between my legs while I was doing what I was just doing, I'd snap it. Like on the edges like this, that's too much pressure. If you need, like, depends on what you're doing, right? Most of the time I feel like if I need that much pressure, I need to reevaluate my platform. But I'm also not driving my pressure flakes across center or doing anything like that. On the rare occasion I work slabs, which is almost never, so I'm not a slab expert by any means. On the rare occasion I work a slab, sometimes I'll do it like that, but the reason I don't work slabs is I have a bad habit of making slabs into a lot smaller pieces because I like to force things. So there you go, that's a good one. So let it be noted, I can drive long pressure flakes. I just prefer not to have to. One day when I'm a little more skilled, we got that down pretty thin. One day when I'm a little more skilled, I may try to do some sequential flaking, which is where, you know, you're flaking in a pattern. For now, to be honest with y'all, on raw stone, that's a little bit beyond me. It's probably beyond most people, if I'm being honest. I don't know, maybe it's just a hard thing for me, but that's one of the most difficult things you can do on a raw piece of stone, because you have to set yourself up for that. So you have to have a nice flat cross section, or a nice smooth cross section before you ever start that, or it doesn't work. So we're gonna switch over. This is good. This is thin, flat, looks nice. It's got some flake scars. It's got a couple hinges on it. I'm gonna leave them. I don't care. This side is better than this side. Neither one of them are bad though. It's got nice. This leaves some nice flake scars. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna take my little pressure flaker and get my symmetry right, and then we'll figure out what we want to make out of it. It will be a southeastern Florida style of point, which we don't have a lot of can't talk today. Ready? Intricately, doesn't even sound right. We don't have a lot of fancy notched points. There you go. So we got like Bolen's, some Kirk corner notches, Lost Lake, Kirk corner notch, Lost Lake, kind of same thing. Some Daltons, you could almost call that a notch point. A Santa Fe, which would be fitting for this point. Yeah, I don't know. I want to make a, Hernando. This would, this would make a good, it's a little big for a Hernando. They were kind of, I would call a Hernando kind of in the realm of smaller points. There is some bigger examples, but they're kind of typically oh, a clay. This isn't the right shape for a clay. I've done a clay on the channel. I don't think I've done a Hernando on the channel, and it's one of my favorite point styles. And no, I'm not great at making them. Maybe I did a Hernando the other day. I did a Hernando out of this point, out of this rock. And I had the same problem I'm going to run into with this one, which is the base was thick. And this one's got a thicker base, you know. This is an 1/8 inch, and that's probably every bit of 3/16 to a quarter. I'm hoping that's showing up on camera well. Now on the sides and across the midsection, it's still about the same, if we're being honest, which is not bad. I don't know what ratio that is. I don't have a tape on me, but if I had to guess, I'd say this is roughly 3.5 by 1.5 inches, probably a little less than 1.5 inches. So you tell me what kind of ratio that is. I don't know really how that's done. I've seen people, I don't know how you measure. I know how ratios are done. I just don't know how you measure the ratio. Is it length times width? Yeah, it's length times width, but thinness is accounted in there somewhere too, right? When y'all are saying, oh, it's 7:1 or whatever. Because I don't understand all like what y'all are talking about sometimes when you say that. I mean, I know what a 7:1 ratio is. It means it's 7 times greater than whatever the 1 is, but I'm not sure what values y'all are assigning to those integers. So, like, you know. Sorry, my throat got a little clogged there. I know that probably sounds like crap on camera. Maybe I'll cut that out. No, I'm not going to cut it out. Deal with it. Unless somebody complains. Then I'll think about it. This does get good and sharp too. For being a heat treat, you know, heat treats typically tend to be a lot glassier, and this definitely lives up to that. I'm just examining my overall symmetry here and trying to keep from, I don't want to put the abrader on it and take half the edge off, so trying to hold back. I normally would, but I kind of want this nice tapered thin edge, and if you have it too blocky, it doesn't look right. So I'm sure y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm going to use it some right here along the edge just to correct that. And this also helps with your shaping, but you have to be at this stage, especially with this coarse of a braider, you want to be see how much that improved our symmetry. So still got to come in a little right there. Let's see, now I have to go back and basically pressure flake that whole edge again to make things correct, which I don't mind doing. I just, you know, we're knapping, we're not grinding, which knapping is German for shape, so we're still knapping, but we're shaping. But I mean, you know, making flakes, which it's nothing, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm being funny. I'm trying to be funny. I'm studying, trying to figure out where I want to do, what I want to do, and where I want to go with this. Get a little more, I was just fixing to say, I need to get a little more support underneath that tip so I can work on it, and voila. Yeah, I definitely need to get a little more support underneath it. I didn't lose a ton right there, but I lost enough. I lost enough for it to be frustrating. I like a nice thin needle sharp tip on them. You know, if I'm trying to make something fancy, which I'm kind of trying to make something fancy today. Kinda. I mean, I want it to look nice. This is too good a rock to dishonor it by not making good stuff out of it. Which honestly, I wasn't super pleased with that video I made on it the other day. But I went through all the work to make it, so I posted it anyway. It hasn't done super well, so we'll do another one on it. Maybe a little better quality, maybe a little better filming. Okay, this is looking pretty dang good. So I want to do one more. Now that everything is totally squared away on the edges, I want to do one more pass of real good really nice pressure down the base to kind of thin that out a little bit more. Gotta have a thin base to do good notches, which this one's gonna be hard to notch. I can tell you right now. I can tell you just by the thickness of the base, it's gonna be hard. We thinned it out pretty good right there. Look at those flake scars running down that thing. I mean, that really helped. Can't help it. Had to mess with it. Same here. Better. Okay, so that's pretty good. It's pretty thin, it's pretty straight. Nice color to it. Looks pretty decent. So now, do we want to do a corner notch or do we want to do a side notch? I can tell you this one's going to be hard. So I'm thinking a really nice side notch would probably be our best bet. Some kind of Bolen plane or Big Sandy, maybe. I'll call it whatever I want, but it's basically going to be they made Bolen planes. I'm going to find it real quick for y'all. They made Bolen bevels, right? That's a Bolen bevel right here. Now that's categorized by that beveled edge. They also made Bolen planes that didn't have a beveled edge. Now these are corner notched, but some of them are side notched. There's not as many Bolen planes as there is Bolen bevels. It's not as common. But that came out of the Santa Fe River, Florida, which is, I don't know, 30 minutes from here. So, you know, if I make something like that, it's acceptable, which we'll do nicer than that. That almost looks like, see, that to me looks like a lost lake. They call it a Bolen plain, but that's what it looks like. That came out of Swanee River, which is a half mile from here. So, yeah, so pretty good Florida point style. So maybe we'll do a kind of corner notch, kind of side notch. We'll have some up going. We'll just try it. We'll just see what we can do. All right. And y'all will just have to, you know, live with it. I am going to braid it right there on the edges. And I'm going to come in here with this, and I'm going to come about that far up, about a 1/4 inch on either side, and I'm going to flake in and make this kind of, I don't know, we'll see what I make, and we'll see how narrow the notches are too. That'll also get me away from the thickness of the base that I'm not loving. But we'll have to be, this is soft, so we'll have to be really careful about not I need to get on camera. Sorry guys, sorry. Trying to go relatively thin here. Look at that. That's a good notch. It's in my best interest, just because I know my limits, to stop right there. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side and hope we can make a match. Getting that angle right can be difficult. And then of course not blowing out a corner, and not blowing out the notch. And by blowing out the notch, I mean taking too much meat to where it's way wider than the other one is. I don't like that. I don't know if y'all can see that. There's like a little, it almost looks like a crack. We're gonna keep going, there's no point in not, but I don't like that. I'm leaving it just like that. I really like this one. Should we do some concavity to the base here? Also needs a couple more flakes out of this back side. Just a touch right there to kind of widen it up. That notch on this side is like, yeah, that looks better. I think it wouldn't suffer from convexity in the base by any means. It could use just a touch. Let's look at the book again. Let's consult. So, no, this is not nearly as pronounced as that, and it's probably more like that one. This one's wore down, so, sorry, make sure y'all can see that. It's probably more like this one. This one's wore down, or more like this one before it got broke off or whatever. These two are a little different. Like in my head, I wouldn't classify this and this as the same point type. I'd classify this as a Lost Lake if it was me, or a Kirk. I don't understand what the difference is. It even has the concave edges. Like, I don't know. I'm not an expert. So I'm gonna say it looks most like that one, and I'm gonna call it I'm going to call it a corner notch or a Bolen plane or whatever. And I'm not going to convex the base. I'm going to leave the base alone. Maybe right there in the middle, just a touch. Let's do the middle just a touch. I don't want to overdo it. I've done that before and it doesn't look as good, but it does look okay with just a touch. You know, so like if it was on a spear shaft, this would be the part that there, just a touch. Yeah, I kind of don't like that. I kind of liked it better the other way, but I'm not changing it now. There you go. I like it. I hope y'all like it. I think we did good. This was a pretty decent video, I hope. Got everything in frame and in camera, and we made a pretty point. So thank y'all for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed it.